Welcome back to the Budget Gamer channel, where we bring you, yes you, we bring you critical and in-depth reviews of just about every indie game we can get our hands on. And today we're going to be taking a look at Breeder Homegrown for the Nintendo Switch. And if you've had your eyes on this one, you might want to reel them back in a little bit. Just get a little bit more objective perspective before you dump your money or your time into it. Starting off our story, we have a phone call from an assisted living nurse to a police officer talking about our main character, some old man, kind of going on his own personal vacation. And after this missing persons style 911 call, we're given access to totter around an empty building covered in graffiti as an old man kind of reflecting on his past. Breeder Homegrown is definitely a more story-driven game, so that's really all we get is more a bit of a preface to set the nuance of exploration and a bit of mystery. However, our exploration is limited to the confines of a 4-room home and a shack out in the backyard. And with very little to go on, the gameplay actually starts off pretty rapidly. Wandering through any one of the rooms, you may encounter one of 4 possible scenarios to play through, where you, as a senile old man, start diving very vividly into their somewhat twisted past. And at this point in the review, I'm going to go ahead and let you know, I'm going to try really hard to not spoil anything, but the game is both short and pretty abrupt. So if I do say anything spoilery, I will preface it in the video with a bit of a spoiler warning. Okay, moving on. The general gameplay is pretty much that top-down adventure style, with a small element of kind of a point and click. Meaning that you'll wander around trying to figure out what you're doing. There's no combat in the game per se. That is, other than one of the 4 memory scenarios where you're playing through an old video game in a kind of a shoot-'em-up style. But don't worry, it is not difficult. You will not have to be a god at shoot-'em-up style games to be able to pass that section. Other than that, you're wandering around, going through dialogue, and really just trying to build up the story of the past and how this old man got to where he is. And we start to really rebuild the picture of why exactly people thought he was so nuts. And as we dig deeper into the main character's past, we get hints at subtle topics of spousal and child abuse. But somehow nothing seems right. There's always some weird outside force. There's something going on that we really can't understand. But more than anything else, we know that there's something buried on that property that's been there for a long time. And occasionally we get to navigate through this bizarro world collecting stones or eggs or something and interacting with some sort of entity that just seems a little bit beyond comprehension. And in all honesty, that is in and of itself the entirety of the game. The graphics and the visuals, as you can tell just from the game footage over my shoulder, is pretty darn sparse. The audio, though, somehow in contrast, actually sets a really creepy tone for the game and is one of the finer draws. But moving into the critical portion of this critical in-depth review is some of the game's critiques. Character movement in the game is incredibly slow. You start off as an old man with a cane, so that's somewhat respectable. And even though the movement speed is boosted when you're playing as David as a child, it's still really slow and kind of drags. The perspective of the game is also really tight, which just makes you feel, even though you're only navigating through a very small 2-bedroom house, it takes a while to just memorize the floor plan, and the perspective makes it to where it's almost impossible to see where doors are or rooms start and end. And while that's totally not game-breaking by any stretch of the imagination, it's just really off-putting. Other than that, even though this does play like a top-down adventure game with some RPG elements, there are no decisions to make. And in that sense, it plays out more like a walking sim-style game where you pretty much just follow what the character did with no real interaction, leaving the player to play the game more as a spectator. There's nothing we can do to alter Davy's life or help save his family situation. And in all honesty, if you actually make it to the end of the game, you'll be stuck with so many more unanswered questions than you had even before you started playing. But if you are interested in Breeder's Homegrown, I found out after the fact that it's actually part number 2 of a 3-part series. I have no idea about part number 3. I'm actually not sure if it's even been released yet, but part 1 is on Steam or itch.io or something like that. It's online. So if you want to try and build and live through that whole story of David's life, then at least part 1 and 2 are both available. And because you can sit down and finish Breeder's Homegrown in the span of about 20 to 40 minutes, it won't be a long journey if you do try and learn the entire story. And so looking back at my experiences with Breeder's Homegrown as a total package, having taken a couple days to just sit down and really just figure out what it was that I just played through, I'm just gonna say it might be a game that you want to leave on the shelf. It's interesting, sure, and there is a lot of potential for that type of scenario to build a story and a really fun game around, but it just didn't happen in this one. And as this is both a tiny and very straightforward game, that does about finish up the review of Breeder's Homegrown now on the Nintendo Switch. So if you enjoyed the review, or especially if you found it helpful, feel free to throw me a comment or a like to show your support. And in all honesty, if you have any questions or comments about this game, please let me know, because I'm still totally in the dark about this one. It just kind of weirded me out a little bit. But anyway, don't forget to hit that little bell icon when you subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. As you can see, there are new and very unique indies coming out literally every single day, just flooding the eShop. And whether it's a legitimate, unforgettable gem that's just a credit to indie gaming, or it's an easy hard pass, you're probably going to find out about it right here. And if you like what we do on the Budget Gamer channel and you want to follow us or help support us, you can check out our Instagram page for one-sentence reviews of every game we've ever done. Follow us on Twitter to see what I'm up to or maybe what new games I'm about to get into. Or if you really like us and actually want to help us make these reviews, you can become one of our Patreon supporters. I'm still figuring that out and it's pretty sparse. I apologize. So if you have any experience with Patreon, please give me some feedback and help me just be a better creator to give you more of what you want. But anyway, this has been the Budget Gamers. As always, thanks for watching.